My name is Inez Brown. My mentors are
Anthony Collins,
Francis Kirkham.
Francis. Last night I was thinking about how we first met, and what was interesting is that I always wanted to become a lawyer, but I come from a family of secretaries, and so my mum insisted that I should do a secretarial course, but because I was so interested in law, she encouraged me to do a legal secretarial course. And part of the criteria of the course was to do work experience, and so I came and did work experience at Pinson's. It was Pinson's then, not Pinson's Masons, and you were a partner in the litigation team, and I did 2 weeks work experience, and I didn't work for you at the time, and the partner was quite impressed with my typing ability and asked me to stay on, and then I got to meet you, and I was quite taken by you at that stage because you were a woman in law. You seemed to be right at the top of your game then, and I was really impressed with how you treated the team, including the support staff, and how you made us all feel as though we were important and part of the team. And I would sometimes do your typing and was just really quite amazed at your knowledge of law, the arbitration that you were doing, and I decided from then I want to be just like her, and that's how we first met. I don't know if you remember my time at Pinson's.
Well, I'm amazed you got on well with my typing, because I was always hopeless at changing my mind all the time, and everybody who was typing for me just tore their hair out because of the number of changes I made.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that, although you make the changes, when you finish the letter or the document and it all comes together, you can see what you want to do for the client, and you were very keen on, you were a perfectionist, everything had to be just right, and I can see now as a lawyer myself that having an eye for detail is so important when you're a lawyer. Our paths came to an end at that point because I only stayed at Pinson's for 2 years, and then I decided to join Rags. Left Rags and I moved to London, and although I kept saying I want to start studying and really thinking about my career in law as a lawyer, as a legal secretary, it was quite a long day with the partners that I work for, really busy day, and I just could not find the time to study part-time because I bought a house and I knew that I needed to pay my mortgage. So I moved to London. I was in London for, I think it was about 8 years, and then I returned to Birmingham and went to Edge & Ellison at the time as a temp. And I temped at Edge & Ellison for, I think it was about 4 weeks in your team, and you asked me to stay on. And I was working for a partner who was a quantity surveyor at the time, and we would interact, and you were very pleased with my progress, and you encouraged me to go to night school. And I said to you, gosh, working full-time, studying part-time, I'm not really sure that I can do that. But you said to me, I know you can, you really do need to do that. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I remember that you were full of confidence, which is tremendous because you really do need that, and obviously had great potential. So it would have been a great waste if you hadn't gone on and done it. So I'm really delighted that you did.
Thank you.
Look where you've got now.
I know, but it all was as a result of your encouragement, and I'm going to talk to Anthony a bit later because we'll move on to me studying part-time, working full-time, which was really hard. It's really hard maintaining a full-time job and then going on to university to study, and I needed a letter of support, and you wrote that letter for me to Wolverhampton, and I've always tried to keep in touch with you and to thank you, because to be truthful, but for you, I don't think I would be where I am, and I don't think that you fully appreciate the impact that you've had on me. You've always been supportive and a mentor for me, and I've watched you go on to become Her Honour Judge Kirkham, and again I would turn around and say, I know Frances, and I worked with Frances, and you are really such an inspiration, and I just can't thank you for what you've done for me.
Gosh, well, I think I need to thank you for saying all of those lovely things, because it's not often that one hears that, but thank you for saying that. And it's been a pleasure over the years to have kept in touch and to see what wonderful progress you've been making.
Thank you.
So good for you.
Thank you, Frances. So, Anthony, obviously I studied part-time, and then I wanted a training contract, and I remember that I applied to Birmingham City Council for a training contract, but I didn't realise that they have something called a personal specific statement that you need to complete, where they ask you specific questions, and you need to answer those specific questions in local authority terminology. And they said to me that you were really, really good candidate to interview, but you did not answer the specific questions. So I didn't get that job, unfortunately, and I applied to Anthony Collins, and it was not as straightforward as I thought it would be. You asked me to do an article on the wolf reforms. I remember I had to do an article then, and that was when Lord Wolf was considered, well, he had already put forward the proposal of getting rid of legal aid and introducing conditional fee agreements. So I had to do an article on that. And you also asked me to do an article on marketing in the legal environment. And I thought, what? So?
My word, did you answer the specific question?
I did, because it was a two-stage process. So I had to submit those articles, and once you were happy with those articles, you then called me for an interview. Do you remember how many of you were on the panel for that interview?
I think there were 3 of us.
Yes, there was 3 of you. There was you, there was Romain, and I'm trying to remember the third.
Peter Hubbard.
Peter
who
Hubbard.
was the prison
Yes,
partner.
yes, and he was very young at the time. I remember, a very young partner at the time. And it was quite a grueling interview, but at the end of the interview I remember that you asked me a question, and Winston, my husband, has always told me it's so important to watch the news, to be aware of the financial market, and you said to me, what was the FTSE this morning? And I was able to tell you what the FTSE was, what the yen was, what the Dow Jones was, and all of you laughed, and you actually said that was a trick question, but I was able to answer, and shortly afterwards I got the letter to say...
I better not ask you today.
I can't tell you today. I was unable to watch the news this morning because I was on the 7 o'clock train to London, so I can't tell you that today. But one thing about my time at Anthony Collins was the fact that you are such a big character, and everyone in the legal community knows who Anthony Collins is, and they would talk about you, and I was so proud to be a trainee at Anthony Collins and to say I was interviewed by you and you actually took me on, and I was offered a permanent job. I don't know if you remember my time at Anthony Collins, because you retired quite soon after.
Yeah, well, I mean, you qualified in the personal injury department,
I
didn't
did.
you? And then when you left us, you went on to become a partner in the clinical medical work, was it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
But I spent 11 years at Anthony Collins.
I mean, you are the example, really, and as someone who starts at the bottom and can reach the top. And I think that's what you can teach all of us, whatever gender you are. And I think that obviously all law firms are looking for able people, and we were particularly looking for people who could think outside the box, and who were caring,
Yes.
and who actually you enjoyed working with.
Yes.
Because if we enjoyed working with you, the clients would enjoy working with you. And I always remember Sir Patrick Lawrence, who was senior partner at Rag & Co. And he used to say, when he was interviewing someone, he used to say to himself, can I put this person on a plane to New York with my best client? So I was talking I was thinking about what we were going to say today, and I thought, well, I could say I'd be happy to sit with you on a plane to China.
Oh, that's so nice, Anthony. That really is. I don't know if you remember that we did a pantomime at Anthony Collins, and I was Prince Michael. And after that pantomime, every time I saw you, even in front of clients, you'd say, Prince Michael, Prince Michael. And it was the joke for many, many years that you called me Prince Michael. But even after you retired, we kept in touch. And you were the president of Birmingham Law Society, and you were quite heavily involved with the Law Society, and you got in touch with me and said, Inez, you need to think about joining Birmingham Law Society. You've got so much to offer, and you could really do a lot for the society and encourage others to join the society. And I took your advice, and I've actually been working with the society now for about 7 years, and I would never have thought that I would eventually become president of the Birmingham Law Society, and obviously I'm vice president now, about to become president. And again, I have to say that if it was not for both of you, I would not be the person that I am. I would not be where I am, and I am very loyal to those who have supported me and have been with me on my journey. At times it's been a difficult journey, but it's always good to know that people have my back and that people are supporting me, and I can say that of both of you, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I think the interesting thing is that I actually was encouraged to join Law Society through Judge Martin Cardinal, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And it struck me when you said that, Inez, that actually it's all of our duties to actually encourage people younger than we are, to go to the next generation and say, have a go at this,
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about your plans when you're president for trying to encourage people from disadvantaged backgrounds to come into the law, and same caring approach that you've always had.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that, though, is because I'm a first generation graduate from my family, lived on a council estate, and to think that I will become the president of the Birmingham Law Society, I think that it's important to inspire those who are disadvantaged to think bigger, and to know that if there is a support network around them, where individuals will encourage them, they too can dream big, they can achieve, and that's what I would like to do, to work with disadvantaged individuals. So, yes.
I just hope that firms haven't become so commercial that it becomes more and more difficult to achieve that.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I'd like to think that I will get a lot of the firms on side, and obviously we don't want them just to consider individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds who don't have the ability to become good lawyers. We want to be able to identify individuals where there's something about them and they can excel with encouragement and with support. So, and at times I felt like giving up. And without people like you, I would not have continued. You have been quite stalwart in your own careers, and it's looking at you as mentors and inspiration that spurs people like me on. So, yeah,
good.
Very, very good. Thank you. Earlier in the year, I went to a talk by Baroness Hales, and she was saying that at the time that she became a lawyer and wanted to become a member of the Law Society, that they, because it was a man's world and it was predominantly men who were at the bar and also at the Law Society, that they decided that I think there were about 3 or 4 women who wanted to join the Law Society, and in order to decide how they were going to do it, they decided, the men, that they would have a race along Fleet Street, and these women had to get their plimsolls and run, and whoever won, they would be able to join the Law Society.
Oh, gracious.
Well, in fact, it was to have the honour of being the first woman. They all became members, but it was to have the honour of becoming the first woman to become a member of the Law Society.
Right, you're absolutely
that was
right.
what the race was about.
You're absolutely right.
Not quite as discriminatory as it might appear.
And then I was...
Still unpleasant.
speaking to Lisanne Gumble, QC, who's at 1 Crown Office Row, and she was saying that when she became a barrister, she could not get into chambers. And so what she had to do was sit in a broom cupboard at chambers and try and get the scraps of work from some of the barristers. Then she started a family, and it was very, very difficult for women in law to be able to run a family and maintain their legal career. And we were both talking about how things have changed now. And if you look at Birmingham Law Society, you've got 3 women right at the top. So Lyndon Thomas, who is the president, I'm the vice president, and then you've got Stephanie Perriton, who's deputy vice. So I think for the first time in the history of the Birmingham Law Society, you're going to have 3 women at the helm. And it's really, really good to see how the law has changed. It's more inclusive of women. There are a lot of women lawyers, and it also demonstrates that women can be at the top of the legal profession. We've got a female president at the moment with Christina Blacklaws. So in 100 years, I think a lot has changed for women in law, and it's quite an achievement. But we can't forget that the men also helped us to get there.
It's only a recent change, though.
Yes.
It was not like that the whole of the time that I was in practice as a solicitor.
How did you find it as a solicitor?
Well, I didn't have the same opportunities as the men did, and I was paid less than the men.
Yes, and that's still the same, actually.
That's still the same. And although I see a lot of young women coming through, I'm not sure how many senior women I see in the big corporate firms. And I'm not sure how much that is changing. So, yes, it has changed, but I'm not that optimistic about it.
So there's been little changes, but I guess that we, the younger generation and the generation below us, we've got to make sure that that change continues, definitely. And you've got diversity in law, which is females, and we've got to address the gender pay gap. But there is a start. It's a slow start, but hopefully.
It's interesting that firms are beginning to talk now about being concerned about the well-being of their staff.
Yes.
And that really is a great change. I mean, firms like Anthony's will have had that at their heart all the way through, but the other firms most certainly have not.
Yeah.
And have been really quite careless about the health and well-being of a lot of their people.
There are massive changes going on regarding the flexibility of staff and partnerships, you know, in the sense that in the old days, every partner had to be full-time, whereas now partners can be flexible, they can do certain days a week. They may not want to be partners and are happy to be consultants, and they're retiring early, becoming consultants and not carrying on. And if you have maternity leave and the like, you can work from home. So there's the potential for firms to be flexible, and I think this is helping. Helping enormously.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that maybe in the next 10 or 20 years there will be a greater change, but we've started, so let's see how we get on. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.